Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Last time I did a video about social media and I closed it a little early. Not much was said after that, just have fun on social media, be careful and good luck and have a great week. But it was a bit awkward. So, well, it happens. But I realized after I posted it that there were a few things that I didn't even touch upon. And I wanted to do that because there are two more aspects of social media that I think are important to realize and are important to talk about. I already talked about the rudeness, about how we are the product, about how it is more divisive, and about how you only see the stuff that you are interested in. So it's really narrowing your view. I talked about all of that. What I didn't talk about is how addicting it is and how there can very easily be false information on there. Now, I know we all know this, but I also know we tend to underestimate it. So I just wanted to do a short video about those parts of social media as well, just to make sure that there is some awareness out there, right? I'm, I'm going to do this again. I do not like the way this is framed. Let's see, there. That's a little better. So let's start with the false information. Now, here's the thing about media in general, right? If there is a media story, it is made to sell, it is made to grab your attention. And it is not always factual. We know this. That is not news. The news is not news. Things are left out. There is an agenda on why things are said a certain way. Buzzwords are used, certain things are left out of the picture. So it is not as factual as we would want to believe it is. We know this. And if you didn't know, then you know now. Now, here in Holland, it's not too obvious, but I know in America, completely different stations will give completely different reports. So it's a little more obvious there. But in Europe, it can be less obvious. So I just want to let y'all know it happens in Europe just as much as it would in America. It is just not as noticeable. Because again, people want to sell. Stories need to sell. Otherwise, why would you? So you tend to only see one side of the story. You tend to see this one particular frame and not what is happening surrounding it. You tend to use certain words that follow the agenda that the people paying for the media want you to roll. So it is not factual. It is more factual than the stuff you will find on social media, though. But always keep in mind, even with normal media, even with the news, keep a critical mind. That is important. And if you can, like personally, I don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news in a couple of years. I chose to stop because I don't want those images in my mind. I don't want those thoughts that are projected by someone else, tailor made to influence my mind and my day. I don't want that to be inserted in my life in that visual and audio way, right? That is too much for me. I don't like that. I don't want that. Now, if there is a story that is important enough, I will look it up and I will look it up from different perspectives. I will look it up from different sources just to make sure that I have a somewhat complete picture. But that is me. I will read about it. There is this thing, I don't know if you have that in America or in the UK or anywhere else, but we have this thing called teletext where you can, sounds like Teletubbies, doesn't it? But teletext where you can press it and you can just see the headlines with a one pager of the information. And that is all I need as information goes, because I want to know what's happening in the world, but I want to be able to choose how deeply it affects me. So that is why I consume news. And I then choose where I'm going to look for it. But that brings me to the social media part. Social media is interesting when it comes to spreading information, because everybody can come up with a story and post it there. And if enough people follow that story, people will start to believe that it's factual. We know this, we have seen this happen. I know there's a lot of people who are still assuming that autism is caused by vaccinations. I've heard, and again, I don't know if this claim is 100% true, but I am inclined to believe it. Okay? But I've heard that this came from one person writing about it and everyone picking it up. And then it is said, but there were studies, but it were tested. I wonder if there are, because it is very easy to say studies have been done. Guess what? And this is separate from that, but this is just an example of how one thing can spiral into a big thing and how something is believed without questioning. And even, you just heard me say, I have not found the definitive article where it once started and if that claim is true, which is why I'm saying it so specifically. It is this easy to believe something or something else. That is why it is so dangerous. But the thing about studies, right? Anyone, literally anyone, can say there has been a study or there have been studies. Doesn't mean there are, and even if they are, it doesn't mean the studies are legit. It takes a lot for a study to be usable, for a study to actually give information that you can go on. So if it says there was a study that shows that, or that suggests that, or that indicates that, great, someone has been curious, someone has done some work, but you don't know that is factual now. It is a study. And specifically pay attention when someone says a study concludes. No, very few studies actually draw conclusions because these conclusions then need to be challenged and reproduced and all of that. And usually someone will find something slightly different. So when it's a fact based on a study or a conclusion based on a study, and especially if it's one study, be careful, be aware of how valid that really is. You can have your own opinions about it. You can choose to believe it, obviously, but just be aware that just because someone is referencing a study doesn't mean it's true. So just want to get that out there. So what can you believe? No idea. I don't know. I would say if you really want to know, go look it up, go find these studies, go read about it, figure out if you believe them or not. Figure out if they have been reproduced. Figure out if there have been a meta study, which basically means that a lot of different people from a lot of different places took similar studies and put them together and started to see if all the results are the same. And that means that different cultures would be put together. That means that all kinds of circumstances of the same study will be put together and a study was made out of that. Then maybe you can start to think like, yes, people put actual work in this and research and a lot of time went over it, so now we can come to a assumption. Even then, I would hesitate to say conclusion. And I'm not explaining myself well right now, but I'm gonna let it go because you're going to search that shit, right? Look what a meta study is. Look what a good study is. It basically means that it can be reproduced with, and you will get the same result. It means that there is a lot of people who participated in it, or a lot of subjects, or a lot of whatever it is that they want to study. There's a lot of people of a lot of that there is very specifics that are described in such a way that it can be duplicated by pretty much anyone who can do decent research on a big scale, and that similar or the same results will be had. And people will do that. And if it turns out that the results are different, then somewhere something went wrong. So then it's not a completely valid study, and you cannot draw a conclusion from it. You can draw questions from it, you can draw assumptions from it, but you cannot draw conclusions from it. So that is just a thing. That's how studies work. That's why I say be careful when someone mentions that. Okay, so there's that. So be aware if you have information on social media, make sure you check it. We all know the Mandela effect, where words are attributed to people who they don't belong to. That's a whole other thing, but that's interesting as well. But specifically when it comes to finding your own information, don't just believe it because someone says it. Don't just believe it because it's referencing a study. Check the study, check the material, and now you know what to look for. Okay? Now, if you still choose to believe things, hey, that's all you. But just know that if someone tells you and gives you actual proof that it's wrong, don't be offended. You just fell for something. And that's fine. Everyone does it. I'm sure I believe in shit that isn't true. Because I'm not this sharp of mind every single time I open a social media page. I'm not going to spend hours and hours checking the research done on a topic. Sometimes I will just choose to believe something. But I will know that if it turns out to be false, that's on me. So, know about it, is what I'm saying. Don't blindly believe something. And that's another thing. What happens on social media is interesting, right? Way back when we heard facts, these facts were statistics. They were brought in a very flat and impersonal way. So we didn't question it. When someone said this particular medicine works in 85% of the cases, and 5% of people of the cases have had severe to fatal effects. And in the other cases, it was unsure. Those were percentages, those were cases. So you would think 85%, that's a good chance. And it will be easier to just accept that. But now, with social media and with people posting their own stories, every single one of the cases that stands out, every single one of the cases that is proving your side of things has a face, a name, a picture, a heartbreaking story, a grieving family, and everything along with it. That makes it personal. That makes it intenser. And that also makes that you are less able to be objective about the information you get. So I need to be aware of that as well. It is not that things have gotten more dangerous, but the way we are now receiving everything is on a more personal level. So it triggers that need to protect humanity that need to protect your own family, your own life, your own loved ones. And because that is triggered, we become more passionate about our beliefs. And that again creates more diversion because the other side has that same shit happening. So again, realize that. And things are attributed to things where there is not necessarily proof. So realize that as well. So just realize that. And of course, there are trends. Like when someone starts, then someone is following. And if it's a trend, a lot of people perceive that as truth. Doesn't make it truth. It makes it a trend. So pay attention to that. Just because it's talked about a lot doesn't mean it's happening a lot. The exact same thing could have been happening a year ago, but no one talked about it. But because now it's being talked about, we believe that it is now prevalent, that it is now an issue, when maybe it isn't. So again, be critical, be mindful of that, be aware of that. And that brings me to the other part, the addictive part. Social media is incredibly addictive. Not just the stories, but the constant change. The likes, the notifications, the shit happening every single time you open your app. Something has happened. You see that little thing light up. You see that little thing where it says, you got a message. Someone liked something. Someone said something. Someone has an opinion. And you open it and you want to know because there's an anticipation, there's a curiosity. But that anticipation is dopamine, and that is a drug that your body creates. And if you get that shot of dopamine, then and you get that successfully, then follows serotonin, which is a happy drug. But every single time you go on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer and you go into any type of social media and there is something happening, you get that dopamine shot. And your body is going to crave that. You're going to want that again and again and again. So it is not just that you like to see what's happening, it is not just fear of missing out. Don't confuse that. It is literally your body asking for more. And that means it is an addiction. If at some point the internet would go down, many people would lose their minds simply because they are addicted to it. Their body doesn't know how to get the dopamine that it needs to stay happy, how to get that serotonin that it needs to stay happy. Because these are moments, these are incremental little moments that give us those little boosts that make us feel good and happy and and we get addicted to it. But we forget that you also get that from a workout, from a good laugh, from good company, from a nice day out in the sun, from a day in the sauna. You can get that from so many places. But because it is a quick fix and easily accessible, and we all carry it around, it is addictive. So you would actually need to retrain your body and brain to get that dopamine long term instead of expecting that fix. And it is possible, but it means you need to make some conscious choices. And you don't have to, I mean, it's completely up to you. But one of the things that you could do is no notifications. We tend to, every time the thing buzzes or makes a sound, we tend to want to look. And then you get another shot. A little shot of dopamine, a little shot of serotonin. It happens all the damn time. But if you don't get notified, if your phone doesn't call you, that means that you need to make the conscious decisions to want to look it up. Now you can look at everything at once, and you can close it, and you can leave it until you're curious again. But then at least it comes from you. So that is one thing. Another thing that you can do, I have done this, and it is incredibly interesting. You can get this blocker on your phone. There's some free apps on there, and you can choose, like the one I had back then, I chose 5 apps, and I gave it a time limit where I could only spend 20 minutes a day on those 5 apps. And I chose the apps that I was most addicted to. Because if you know you can only spend 20 minutes on those 5 apps, and it's not 20 minutes each, it is 20 minutes on all of them, you are going to be a lot more aware of how many times you actually need to open it. Because if I take Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and say another one, Twitter. Now we take those 5. I can spend a lot of time on Facebook, but if at some point I want to look something up on Google that I actually need to look up, I may not have that time. So I now need to make that choice. I can search for dumb shit on Google, which we do all the time. The most random, unimportant shit. Oh, let's Google it. The amount of time that gets wasted on that is crazy. But we do it. And for what? Because we want to be right. We want to satiate our curiosity without thinking ahead, without realizing if we need it. I don't need to know how old Beyonce is. I bet someone right now is looking, how old is Beyonce? Because I just triggered that question. Great. But do you need the information? Is it going to make you happier? Is it going to make you smarter? No. So if you only have 20 minutes, you're not going to look that shit up. When someone asks you about something work related that is important to them, that is the stuff you want to spend that time on, not someone's age. Not if someone was on some movie 20 years ago. Not if that is the same person that you think you just saw in this particular movie. No, that is really not important, is it? But we all do it. I know I do. But spending a week or a month like that can make you so much more aware of the amount of times you do that. And because you become more aware, you start to do it less. And by doing it less, you start to look for that same feeling of joy and fun and excitement and happiness in the end in places where they're more lasting. And that's how you create good habits, and that's how you create lasting habits that serve you. So there is just a lot there. Like I said, it's on you if you want to use it or not. But I'm just saying, be aware of it, know about it, and make your conscious choices. I've talked a lot. It's almost 25 minutes. I thought it was going to be a short video, but by now I should know better because once I get on a roll, I'm rolling. We all know that. You know it, I know it, but yeah, be aware when you're on social media. Be aware when you're on your phone. Know what's going on, and make it a conscious choice. That's all I want for you. I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you are doing well, and I will see you next time. Bye.